Hi,
This would be.
welcome.
This is a regular recording day, okay? This is what happens.
I completely understand.
We're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna get nothing done for like 40 minutes and then have a 5-minute podcast. And
Yeah.
Then panic and then not upload that and then reschedule for another time.
This is
So-
Mike. Okay, bye.
Alright, I've got the perfect way to open it.
Go on then.
Hello and welcome to Thom-Cast with me and Mayoorhan.
Hi. Still no
Hi.
Matt. Still dead.
Still no Matt. Matt is in purgatory somewhere. We're not probably the
He's
railway.
still fighting
whatever.
diesels on the other railway.
Still fighting them diesels. Now, there isn't much news for this episode, but instead we've got a great substitute because we have the
Guest.
one single guest is what the budget's allowed for. We
Plus the
have
space in the studio is very limited.
yeah, that's also true. But we have the very talented Mr. ThomasFan8 or Mike. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Did you enjoy my acting as if we haven't been talking for like half an hour?
It was seamless, George. It was seamless.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's totally not going to be a Thom-Cast like episode 9.5 with all the bloopers.
No, you can't ever put those public ever anywhere.
No. That's probably for the best.
We'd
Yeah.
be shut down, there'd be a scandal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh. Thank you for having me.
It's no problem.
It's
I
very
don't know-
formal now, isn't it? very formal.
Yeah, and awkwardly formal.
Awkwardly formal.
I don't quite know how we were planning on jumping into this, but I suppose perhaps just talking first, going way back, if you'd like to, about kind of why you started making videos, because that was a fair few years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Not to make you feel
was.
old. Yeah.
Thom-Cast, the podcast where we make young people feel like they're 80.
Hooray. Yeah. No, I feel old. I do feel old now. Probably because I haven't uploaded videos for years. It's such an embarrassment. I go back to old videos every now and then, and
What?
it says uploaded 4 years ago. I'm just like, oh my word. And I remember making these things.
Well, that's about to change pretty soon.
That a nice segue.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if anyone's been following my videos, but I don't think anyone's been commenting on them, saying when's this coming out or when's that coming out.
You probably have on the first part of said series.
No, I wouldn't think so. No.
Okay.
No. I haven't received one comment like that, but I'm actually making Bad Lookout. Surprisingly, to everyone's amazement. Yeah. I've made it. I've made it. Yes, I've made it. I can say that now.
And we can premiere a very exclusive clip of it right here, right now.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Who, asked the little engines, is Godred? Godred was our number one, and named after a king, Cody replied. Perhaps that went to his smoke box and made him conceited. He never kept a good lookout. He'd roll down the line looking anywhere but the track. You'll have an accident, I told him. Pooh, he said. I've got automatic brakes, haven't I? And driver's got his air brake. What more do you want? More sense from you, I said. No engine can stop at once if he isn't ready to obey his driver's controls. The first thing a young engine learns, agreed Scarlowy.
And the clip you've just seen is from Mike's Bad Lookout.
Yes.
Probably, if Mayoorhan remembers to edit it in.
If Mike remembers to send it to me.
Yes, which took 3 years to make, on and off, and yeah, eventually, yeah, it's out, it's coming out.
What was the thinking behind adapting Bad Lookout? And I mean,
Well,
are you going
Mountain
for the
engines
whole?
in general.
Yeah.
The reason I fell in love with that book especially was for Godred's bio, because I got his Ertl model quite late, and I knew nothing about the characters, to be honest. I don't actually have the Railway Series collection, which is like a crime. So I knew nothing.
Get out.
But like, I grew up on the TV series. I'm gonna be honest. That's everything most of what I know from Thomas sort of before I joined the community. So, yeah, when I read Godred's bio, I was just like, wow, that sounds like a great story. So I eventually got the book Mountain Engines, and I sort of fell in love with the images and the whole story of Bad Lookout, especially because obviously it's an engine falling off a mountain, and I just thought that's the most amazing thing ever. And I thought, how great would that be in a Brittlecroft kind of style, you know? So that's the premise for adapting the book.
Thinking about it, a story like that would fit right at home in Series 5.
It would.
Probably would have fallen down the mountain with a fireball and another fireball.
Yeah. Well, the actual episode that when Godred falls off the mountain was sort of trying to replicate Horrid Lorry, the way the lorry sort of face palms the bottom of that drop from the episode. So yeah, I sort of try and do a few throwbacks to remind people of the classic days, just to give it that classic feel.
I have to say that one of the details with the Fat Controller. Like, I was like that.
Sorry, I think I cut out for a second there.
All right, I've just always found it interesting how you replaced the railway inspector in Mountain Engine with the Fat Controller.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that is definitely something that the TV series would have done, I think.
Yeah. I'm very, very fond of the Fat Controller, which isn't obvious at all in Jeopardy, especially. I just think he's a great character, and I like the idea that the Fat Controller's more or less in charge of almost all the railways on Sodor. Again, that's sort of throwing back to the kind of Series 4 era. Just because I think he's so full of life, especially now these days in the current series. He's sort of got his old charm back. He's strict, but he's also quite sort of clueless about certain things and messes up every now and then. It's kind of a bit of slapstick for the audience, which I love. And yeah, I thought it'd be funnier to have the Fat Controller sort of take charge of the driver and say, no, hands off, as they're going and descending down that very steep gradient.
I do love the idea that he's everywhere. Like, he just takes control of everything, even if he's not particularly qualified to do it.
Exactly. Like, I wouldn't say that he's actually qualified to do it at all. I think that he just wanted to do it, I'm here for the ride.
He'd be the sort of person who'd deliberately take the brakes off random engines just to have like a practice on how people respond to a runaway on the railway. Keep the workers on their toes.
That would be something I'd write. It's like, oh, what's this do? And then like something would probably roll down the hill and smash into something else. That's kind of how I write the Fat Controller. He's sort of clueless but lovable and somehow in charge. Somehow.
This might be a sacrilegious thing to ask, but do you have a favourite episode or adaptation that you've done?
Oh, that I've done? Oh man.
I know there's quite a large body of work there, actually.
Yeah, I don't know really. I don't watch my stuff a lot. I sort of make something and I want to do something else because I don't know what to say, but I'm working on another Thomas film, which I'm really loving where it's going, and it's got loads of Fat Controller moments in. I don't want to say too much about it because I know that I'll get hounded like I have been for the past 3 years for Bad Lookout. But yeah, I maybe because my debut, I suppose, was Jeopardy. I suppose I've always got a soft spot for Jeopardy. But yeah, I mean, almost all my stuff sort of gets a lot of attention, which I'm really grateful for. I don't know why it does, but yeah.
I think I really... Oh, George is dead.
Oh, is he dead?
No, I'll keep going on my own 2 feet. Oh, here he is.
Sorry, back Skype crashed.
No worries.
It's fine.
So continue on as if nothing happened.
Everything happened. I just have to edit out the thing that happened.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, no.
Fat Controller tries to figure out Skype.
And that red button does... Oh.
Oh, dear. Oh, bogey.
Oh, bugger.
Trying to figure out how to unmute.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, what were you guys talking
But yeah,
about?
I think the thing I really admire about your stuff, personally, is how well it ages. Like,
Yeah.
because I think weirdly, like, your stuff still looks good today, and you get like a sense of, yeah, you've gotten better with your craft, but your older work still managed to look really, really good,
Yeah.
and like they don't
I-
look bad, they don't look aged, they still, you can still see where the effort went in, which I admire.
Well, I'm glad you think so, because I sort of look at my old work and think, oh, that's awful. But I know that's sort of what everyone thinks.
Yeah, but
Um,
like, you know, you had Moving Eyes. You
yeah,
did Moving Eyes 6 years ago.
that that's I suppose that is something that I suppose was quite new when I brought Jeopardy out. I don't think anyone had really. I mean, apart from maybe doing it in paint, no one had really sort of put the actual faces on and moved the eyes around. Um, which I just thought would look good. Because when I was making Thomas videos, I was making them for my cousin before they went onto YouTube.
That's what they all say.
But this is true. This is actually true.
Mary.
For my for myself and for my cousin. And then one day it's just like, I'm gonna put this online, and then it sort of exploded from there. And my first video was Thomas You're the Leader music video. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was around 2008, so that's when the song sort of took off and everyone loved it.
Yeah. I've always been sorry. I've always been quite. Well, I've always been really impressed with your sets because I feel, and you might feel completely different about this, but I've always felt that you've had a very interesting style in your sets, like in Mountain Engines, the backgrounds and whatnot. How I think, did you draw those or?
Yeah, they're not actually that impressive, if I'm quite honest.
Oh.
I've still got them. They've lasted, but they're just pastel drawings, that I needed to fill the background with.
They look pretty impressive. I can't even draw a stick man, so.
Well, George, you have drawings. You've done drawings. Don't say you can only draw a stick, man. I've seen you draw 10 cents.
Oh
If
my
I'm
God,
quite
that is a
honest,
thing.
those backgrounds, like I was just doing, like, with smudging my finger with different colours and sort of making a picture using chalk. So it wasn't, when you look at it like that, it's not that not that impressive. But I'm glad it does what it's supposed to when it's on camera. But in real life, you look at it and think, oh, that's what it was.
Is that it?
Like I mean, that's what I'm used to, because everyone else sees it obviously through the eyes of YouTube, but of the camera. But I look at it and think, it's not a great background.
I suppose it's all about the illusion, and that I'd say that
Of course,
wholly
yeah.
works. Yeah. And I've also been interested about your compositing with like faces and whatnot. Like Mayoorhan was mentioning about the moving eyes.
Yeah.
And things. I remember the opening to Thomas and the Christmas Disaster seemed quite inspired and very different to a lot of Thomas things.
Yeah.
I mean, was that inspired directly by anything, or was that?
Do you mean the opening credits?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the time, like, I was quite. Oh my word! I don't want to say this. I really don't want to say this, and I'll never ever say it again.
Thom-Cast, where the truth comes out.
Oh my word!
Truth
Please,
cast.
everyone's going to be after me for saying this, but the Misty Island Rescue opening credits inspired that whole sequence. I know.
Get out.
Inspired by such a movie. And I probably would argue that's the only good thing about it, probably besides the music.
Or the music.
But yeah, I thought, like, have a fresh opening, something I hadn't done before, and keep things different in what was my the film that followed on from Jeopardy. I sort of wanted to make it a bit more different in that style.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think well move on to the other railway.
Ooh.
I don't know where the other railway stuff is. I'm just looking up. Mayoorhan, please cut this out.
But
I'm trying to find it.
no, this is staying in. Actually, this is funny.
I think this should stay in.
Yeah, we get a true insight into how our wonderful leader George Oakes runs
Damn it.
Thom-Cast.
If that stays in, so does Mike's confession.
Oh, I'll never live that down.
So does everything before we started recording the titles.
Oh God. Okay, so I found them. So, quick thing, the other railway is something that we like to ask guests, comprising of a few questions. In theory, if they were
terrible
cast...
hosts, and we like to send our guests to terrible
Yeah.
places like the other railway.
And if the guest is cast out for the other railway, what Thomas-related things would they like to bring with them? So the first question would be, Mike, if you could bring one classic episode, so series 1 to 7 with you, which episode would you bring and why?
Ooh. Oh, that's hard. That's like saying what's your favourite episode. I mean, I kind of know what my favourite episode is, but I don't think I'd bring it with me to the other railway, and that's Haunted Henry.
That wouldn't help, I'd imagine.
I think it would just make me go mad if I brought that with me. I'd just turn really paranoid. I think, Thomas episode probably. I'm leaning towards Trust Thomas purely for nostalgia. But I don't know. I'm sure I'll think later on, oh no, I should have gone for that episode. But Trust Thomas, because that was the first video I ever had of Thomas. I think just for the sake of nostalgia, I'd say, that episode was quite poignant in my childhood.
See, I think that's quite a popular choice, actually. I get that impression, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very visual episode, I think. Like, it's got very iconic visuals to it, such as Thomas in the Pond and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's one of those episodes where, as a child, I remember everything about the episode except the title, which made it terribly difficult to find. Because my parents would be like, "So which VHS would you want?" And I'm like, "The one with the frog." It's like, this one, the one with the frog.
But there's a frog in I've forgotten the name now. Gordon in the Ditch. I'm a terrible fan.
Off the Rails.
Off the Rails. There's a frog in that as well. So
yeah, tell that to my 2-year-old self, or 1-year-old self.
Could have been a bit of a dilemma. Okay, the next question would be one of the newer episodes, so series 8 to 19. When you think about it, series 8 is almost classic at this point, I think. So some of those seasons pretty old now.
It gets a bit of a bad rep, doesn't it? But it's there are some good episodes in there. Having said that, there are some good CGI episodes from series 17. I'm not even going to mention 9 to 16 because that was awful. And
we
luckily,
should have that as another railway series category, so people actually choose from there.
Yeah.
That would be harsh. That would be so horrible.
Next time.
Yes.
Ooh, Thomas to the Rescue is quite a good episode, actually.
Ooh, that's an interesting choice.
I just remember, I kind of remember getting All Aboard with the Steam Team DVD, and that, I mean, it was so different. Obviously, there was a new composer, and the opening titles were different. But I think it was just a great start to a new era that was kind of coming in.
No, that went very quickly downhill.
That went very quickly downhill, exactly. Due to certain people taking over the writing, but we won't go into that. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, I just love. It's a nice Thomas episode, I think, and it's got some great moments in it with Thomas and Diesel.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this might be interesting actually. The next category would be a railway series book. Could be interesting.
Like I said, I had compilation storybooks of the railway series. I never actually owned I mean, I had certain, I had Thomas the Tank Engine. I'd actually, as cliche as it would sound, Thomas the Tank Engine is probably the one that I'd want to take with me because Thomas is my favorite character, and I know that's really rare from what I've discovered from everyone. But like, Thomas is my favorite character, and it's so cliche, but like, I don't relate to any other character in the show, and I think that's sort of why it would mean something to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, Thomas the Tank Engine.
I think Thomas the Tank Engine is pretty up there with the best Railway Series books.
Yeah.
Because I suppose it kind of starts off the formula as well, of like an engine that's kind of disgraced themselves and has to prove themselves in like that four-story
arc
way that it does. Yeah.
I mean, I think it sort of proves how wonderful it is as a book in The Adventure Begins, because like you said, it's this character that grows into something wonderful and gets rewarded in the end, and that's kind of like the format for a lot of sort of Hollywood feature films in some respects.
Yeah. I guess it's like the quintessential Railway Series book anyway, really. Like both in iconography and just the stylings of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next.
Also, technically, it's the 70th anniversary of that book this year.
Damn it, Mayoorhan!
What?
So it's lucky I said it then.
Yes, because last year wasn't Thomas's 70th anniversary. This year is.
Yeah.
It was Edward's 70th anniversary.
But no one cared.
No one cared.
No love for Edward.
So the next category would be a special / movie.
Ooh. Alright, I'm going to say now, because I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is as well.
Mystery Island Rescue. No, Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
Do it.
I don't know whether to say Magic Railroad or Lost Treasure. That's such a hard thing. Oh, damn it.
Nostalgia with Magic Railroad, I'd say.
I feel like saying Magic Railroad just to annoy a load of people.
I think that's the most common choice for a movie, actually, to be fair.
Which one?
Magic Railroad, I think.
Only because us three chose it as a joke in the first episode.
I would still say that is the most nostalgic movie anyway.
Okay, guys, I'm going to keep the numbers up. Magic Railroad it is.
Yay! You've sold your soul like us.
No, I'm going to defend that film to the day I die. I think it's a fantastic film. Like, I look at all the good things about it, not necessarily the, what's obviously, there are bad things about it, and we know what those are. But there are some absolutely fantastic things about it, and people overlook that so often, and I get really annoyed. So I'd say, for the sake of nostalgia again, Magic Railroad.
Yeah, a lot of people definitely feel nostalgic about Magic Railroad. Trust me when I say they've shouted at me about that plenty of times.
Yeah.
Something
referring to me, Mary.
There's got to be something very successful about it because it's got a massive fan base.
Yeah.
No matter how much people bash it, there's something really nice about it. I think, in a weird way.
It's the thing that they got right are the things that really stand out and that are on point. It's certainly shot in a very cinematic way, and the colours are beautiful. And I just, that hasn't really been taken into account with especially some of the CGI films. Like, the colouring just looks like another episode. Like, Nitrogen didn't really colour grade any of their lighting. It's all very much like, this is daytime, this is nighttime. There was no sort of in between.
You also look back at Nitrogen, and some people may notice how the backgrounds of most of the CGI sets are actually 2D.
Yeah, and their grass was awful. I said from day one, Nitrogen just they don't cut the cake for me. They're awful. Like, I never really warmed up to their CGI. But Ark have completely blown them out the water, and they have addressed everything that I hated about Nitrogen. And one of those things is they actually animate Thomas's mouth properly, and that sounds really weird, and it's obviously going to come from me, somebody who loves Aardman animations, but Thomas's big smile was lacking so much in Nitrogen's animation that it just made him look like a fish most of the time.
Yeah.
And
No, I
Yeah,
get that.
I get that. Yeah.
yeah, like, and it really bugged me. I was just like, make Thomas smile. He's like, his mouth doesn't go past his nose, which makes his nose look huge. And if I mean, just anyone who was like listening to this now, just go back to a nitrogen episode and you'll see his mouth moves like a puppet. It's awful. It's just,
I don't think people want to go back to the nitrogen episodes.
no,
It's not even-
I mean, just take my word for it then. Don't spare yourselves.
I will say that I've always thought Blue Mountain Mystery was animated really nice, though.
I think the direction for Blue Mountain Mystery
Yeah.
is its top bit, like camera angles and the like.
It was definitely the best, yeah. But again, if that project had been given to
Present day arc, yeah.
exactly, they would have made it into something completely. The cameras would have been moving a lot more, and it would have been much more creatively directed.
Yeah.
Like Bregton likes his still shots, which really kind of bugged me.
Yeah, I think there's probably more dynamic ways to frame moving engines.
Yeah, not just sort of fixed to their cylinders, looking up at them.
Or just I guess I don't know if it really counts, but when the engines are just moving and talking, but you keep the camera moving at the same pace as the engine and not varying in where it's aiming.
Yeah,
that always annoyed me to no end.
Yeah.
Right, so the next category would be Thomas songs. This would specifically be one with lyrics.
Ooh.
None of your heart-torn background music loving.
Well, I love more or less every single Sam Blewett song, so I'm guessing I'm gonna have to go for one of them. And that's hard. I feel like saying we make a team together,
Ooh, that is
but
good.
the version during the film, not the version with the kids, like just the sort of. I feel like saying the acoustic version. It's not really an acoustic version, but it's when you could just hear the guitar in the background and it's just Sam singing. Like that gives me the chills when I listen to it.
Nice. I think you're the first person to not choose a classics era song either as well.
I feel bad, but technically, I don't know. I think Robert's just done some fantastic songs, and they sort of go beyond what the kids did.
That's fair.
It certainly wouldn't be an Ed Welch song, put it that way. Not a nursery rhyme, thank you.
Ooh.
Okay, so we've got two more categories. So, one piece of Thomas merchandise.
Ooh. I feel like saying Bachman Thomas, but that's again. I think I'm gonna have to say Ertl Thomas, like just for nostalgia,
Oh.
because I've had him for years, and he started off all my videos. He's very sort of sentimental. So yeah, I'd say Ertl Thomas. Favorite character, sort of childhood buddy.
Yeah. I have
That's
to ask.
made of die-cast metal.
I feel compelled to ask. I'm assuming you've got a pretty big Ertl collection, judging from your videos, right? Like, have you got a complete collection, or?
I think like Lady Hat and maybe I know of all the characters, Lady Hat I don't have. But
I
yeah.
genuinely think I might have a spare Lady Hat if we ever meet.
Then George, I have a full collection. I know.
No, I tell you what it is. I've got a boxed Sir Topham hat and Lady Hat, but I've already got a Sir Topham hat. I think it is.
Yeah, that's why
I'm not
I never.
quite sure about the logic of that.
No, that's why I
that
never
falls
had
apart.
both. Because you'd have like double fat controllers. Because obviously you get the fat controller on the Porter, which I do have, but you'd get the fat controller and Lady Hat, which was kind of silly. But so you'd have two Tophams, which is cool, I suppose.
One of them could be made into. Is it Loam? I think. I don't know why I'd want that though.
The Sharpie mustache.
We won't mention that.
I've actually got a lot of boxed Turtles, I have to say.
I mean, I recently bought a James in Magic Railroad packaging for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Thom-Cast, Ertl showing off collections episode.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have a say because you butchered an Ertl, a mini Scarloey.
I did butcher Metallic Duncan when I was a child.
Ooh, yeah, but is there? I swear it's even rarer to have a normal Duncan. Like everyone had the metallic Duncan.
Like,
No, I had a normal Duncan.
What happened with my metallic Duncan is I got like sort of half dipped in paint, which dried, and then once you took away the dried paint, it sort of like got very very weirdly coloured on the bottom half. So like it's sort of metallic Duncan on the top half, and there's sort of like a really dull finish on the bottom. So yeah,
We've all got Urtles that have been through the wars, whether that's just been played with or being dipped in paint. We've all got those.
Okay, so we're on the final question now, which would be if you could go to the other railway, what Thomas character would you take with you?
Oh, could you answer this for me? Maybe I don't know if I've said it yet.
I'd take Daisy for the banter, but
Who do you think I would take?
oh, Thomas.
Yeah, it's Thomas.
No,
Oh,
Charlie.
Oh.
Oh God.
You don't know me at all, do you guys?
Oh. Well,
No,
Send
of
him into
course.
the workshops.
I think the judgment that's going to be passed down on Mike's going to be fun on the comments of this video.
I think
Send him.
people are just going to hate me after this now.
Yeah,
This is
people are
meant
going to hate you. People are going to hate you, and then they're going to realise you were joking, and then they're going to say their first comment was also a joke, when really they meant it all along.
JK.
So unenthusiastic.
Yeah. No, of
Oh,
course it's Thomas. Of course.
yeah.
Yeah, he's always been my favourite.
I don't know which character would make the best for like conversations and whatnot though. Whether Thomas would take that spot. 'Cause, like
Yeah.
someone like Toad or something might make for a good companion in that aspect.
Otherwise, I'd say Toby. I'd love Toby.
Oh yeah, Toby is a
Thomas
good
What
and
a fat controller. If you want good conversation.
Yeah, you know what? Screw it. Let's take the fat controller.
He counts, but I guess in terms of like being a railway character, he'd have to just take the Gandhi dancer with him or something. It would be like a 2-man team.
Oh no, come on, guys. The ballast spreader. I mean, he must have some pretty good stories to tell.
He could tell you about all the different types of ballast that ever exist.
And the wee engines in the hills. He saw them before everybody else, probably. He's like the first on the gossip.
I think if you want to go mad really quickly, then take Marion with you. That would be like torture. But I love Marion. I do love Marion. I just have to stress that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could probably get her to be quiet if you find her a nice hole to dig.
Innuendo. Oh, sorry. Oh man.
Oh
I'm
God. Oh God.
The true side of ThomasFan8.
Well, there's that picture of you and Mavis that's going about the net.
Oh, that did, yeah.
I don't know about this, and I don't think I want to.
No. Oh dear.
Well,
Anyway.
You know the ending image of Thom-Cast is going to be now.
yeah, if I find it.
Oh man. Oh dear.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Good Lord. But yeah, I think with that you successfully completed the other railway.
Hooray!
I don't know what we'd have planned to talk about now, actually, mate.
I guess I don't know. I thought I'd just say a few words about the show.
Please do.
Like why it's so like I don't know. Maybe we could all say something about like why it's so personal to us.
Of course.
Just from our own perspective, I suppose, because it's like we've got such a huge fandom, and I just guess we have our own stories to tell, like why we have our own favorite characters and whatnot. But
Sure.
I don't know. Shall I start? I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I certainly like. Obviously, Thomas is my favorite character, and I think I'm just trying to sort of pinpoint why the show is so sort of personal to me. I think it's probably down to the way in which it was executed, especially probably for a lot of people. They'd, the models, the live action, handmade quality of it was very personal and relatable to a lot of people. It's like sort of sitting on your carpet with your Ursula Thomas or your your wooden railway, Thomas, or whatever it was, and just dreaming up these stories. And I think like it's down to sort of Britt Allcroft, sort of encouraging children to use their imagination even, and tell stories. I think that's what's quite important about the history of Thomas, because I think she was in I don't know if you saw the speech that she did recently.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember this.
And she says she's trying to sort of bring back, the human interaction with sort of children's storytelling and, encourage that. Because it's so easy to sort of get lost in all the technology that's coming in, and when really, like, certainly as a kid, I would sort of sit down and write my own stories. I don't know if
No, I can relate to that. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like, but because times are changing so much, I don't know if that's sort of affecting the way kids work, in the way they sort of consume television and things like that.
I think there's a real push towards snappier storytelling, which I think has both benefits and downsides.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd get, like, these days, I don't think you get stories like Series 4.
You wouldn't get, and this is a bit of a tangent to Thomas, but something which makes me a little sad is you wouldn't get shows like Oliver Postgate Productions and whatnot, or like Eye of the Engine or Bagpuss, which I think are just wonderful shows.
I think what's happened now is generally, and this isn't a bad thing as such, but generally like children's TVs become more Americanized in terms of how it's executed, to be like sort of shorter, sharper, very loud. And like you look back at what English children's television used to be, and how sort of subdued, quiet, and relaxing it tended to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, like, I go back to the narrow gauge stories if you want to go for like proper, relaxing, sort of old TV shows. And I know Dan and Hayden keep going on about Wind in the Willows, which I still need to watch properly.
Yeah, I think what we sort of have in common, and as you said, George, is that they're all so quaint in the way the stories are told. It's always sort of one or two voices doing it all.
Yes.
And I think that's obviously these days you probably would never find something like that. I know they tried to bring back the clangers, which was brilliant. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I guess kids just don't sort of have the patience for something quite so. I don't know.
Perhaps something a bit more meandering, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, because it's
like
what we
nowadays.
know, what we grew up with. Yeah, they sort of like fast-paced, moving things, and it's kind of a shame, really. Which is why I personally work in stop motion. For all my Thomas videos.
Oh no, I think there's an imperfection to stop motion, and perhaps if this would count 2D stop motion in the thinking of things like Eye of the Engine, that there's just an imperfection in it that's so human, and when you do that in a computer, unfortunately, you do eradicate that imperfection.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Britt Allcroft said herself that the CGI just didn't have the soul, which is, I think, a really poignant thing to say, because you see the detail and everything in the sets, and if it's plasticine, you see the fingerprints.
Like, the CGI in the show now is wonderful, but it's not.
It is, but you can still tell that it's not real, and it's that really sort of distracts me personally. I like as George said, the imperfections, even if it's seeing something go off, if you see a hand offset or something from the original Thomas series, it's just that reminds you that it's just
people made this.
It's a real world. It's real, and it's a shame that that's sort of dying out.
It is. It really is. I think though we are definitely holding up a sort of generation that was brought up on that.
Yeah.
And the future is uncertain, but such as yourself, Mike, and I think there's a lot of people that do want to hold up that sort of legacy. The world's always changing, in terms of media, but there's nothing to say, I don't think, that it couldn't go back to what it has been at some point. What goes around comes around, and perhaps, I'd say these shows like Classic Thomas and kind of the older kind of UK children's shows have stood the test of time for a reason. And if our current generation of those don't, then we might be looking further back to see what went so right before.
Yeah. I mean, I can only hope it goes that way, really, because it again, I think it's the art of storytelling. You don't need all these powerful visuals and big camera moves to sort of tell a story. It's a great way to tell a story, obviously, but there are much more simpler ways of doing things, and I think especially children's entertainment, you do need that kind of calmness that series 4 provides, especially, and there is an art to that shouldn't really be ignored.
Absolutely. Like, I've always found it charming, and I can't remember the episode. It's a shot of Sir Handel, and there's a bug on a table next to him.
Yeah.
That, ironically, I think people have only really noticed now that they've been upscaled to HD. It's stuff like that just makes the episodes, I think. And sometimes when the eyes aren't quite looking in the right direction.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what's so lovable about it. You can almost sort of see how it's been made, like the blue tack underneath the humans.
Or the Lego for the Fat Controller to stand on in Series 1.
Exactly. It just reminds you that this is a real world, and you can make it as well if you really want to.
How did they not get sued for that?
Yeah, that's very true, actually.
You know what? There's probably some amazing story for that, though. There's probably like a really great story about like I like to imagine maybe there's like 5 minutes on the clock before they had to film that. And like Britt goes to David Mitter like, oh, what's the Fat Controller gonna stand on? And he just has to like run down to Poundland and find some like discount like rip-off Lego or something. There's a great biopic to be made about like early Thomas the Tank Engine, I reckon, if you look into it enough.
Like a comedy.
Yeah.
Like the sort of comedy where everything goes wrong, but the end product is just
but
right.
It's still on point. It still works. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Roller coaster end to an episode where we go really somber and suddenly really perk up towards the end.
Brilliant discussion, though. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
That's okay. I don't know what you mean by bringing it up because we've been going on for ages.
That's true.
Wait, there's a podcast happening? What?
That's fine, George. No worries.
I think that's a really interesting point, actually, and I think I didn't consider it like that before. That there is a charm that we do have to uphold as a generation that has kind of grown up with that charm. It's just a question of time to see whether in 20, 30 years people look back at Thomas as it is now through the same kind of nostalgic goggles that we do with the classic series.
Yeah. It's like the process, especially of the original series. Like, you compare that to the CGI, you can't really have much to say about it other than there's guys on the computer sort of working away at what you see today. But back in the 80s, the 90s, there would be people slaving away, crouching down and making the eyes move and doing the steam, and just remembering that they did all that for the sake of 5 minutes, and Brittlecroft would say, they're like feature films, which, to be honest, they are. It must have taken hours to film something.
Yeah.
And it's just that things like that sort of people need to remember. There was so much that went into our childhood and into a lot of other things that we would have watched as kids as well. That shouldn't be overlooked.
Never overlook the sophisticated filmmaking.
God damn it,
Come on, you knew how to do it.
And on that note, I think the show may draw to a close.
This isn't going to be the final episode ever. Don't take his somber tone seriously.
I'm going to have people out after me after this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to redeem myself by talking about the classic series.
hold me to that lady hat. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Like,
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
no problem. It's been a really, really lovely chatting to you.
Great fun.
Yay, I'm glad.
And on that
note,
surprisingly non-sarcastic note for a Thom-Cast episode, it's time to end.
I don't know about that, George.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Don't forget to watch Bad Lookout.
Put that at the end. Put that after the music note.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good.
Oh.